welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating framework from our source material that acts like, well, a critical system update for the executive brain. Look, if you've ever felt like your mind is trying to process way too many open tabs at once, or that despite all your outward success, you're actually running on outdated internal software, this is exactly where you need to be. We're going to completely unpack the architecture of self-mastery and build out a full Psychotech ecosystem for your leadership. Let's get into it.
So why do high-performing leaders still burn out? It's a really painful reality, isn't it? I mean, we constantly see these brilliant executives, founders, and CXOs who've totally mastered their industries, yet they just find themselves running on fumes. Take a CEO who built a startup from scratch. A few years in, they're literally drowning in a sea of mental clutter. Their days are completely dictated by reactive decision-making, and burnout, well, it becomes an absolute inevitability, not just a possibility. We're going to use our source material to figure out exactly why that crash happens and, more importantly, how to engineer it out of your life for good.
Okay, here's our architectural blueprint for today. We'll systematically diagnose the glitches in your current mental software and install a permanent solution. We're covering the leadership operating system, the human performance chain, defending your attention, the psychotech ecosystem, and finally becoming a psychotech leader. Starting off with Section 1, the leadership operating system, and upgrading your core software. Right off the bat, we need to completely reframe a concept that's radically misunderstood in the modern business world. For decades, corporate culture has shoved self-mastery into this little box labeled soft skills. We treat it like an optional wellness retreat, or maybe a nice-to-have bonus if you somehow miraculously find the time on a weekend. But here's the reality check. Self-mastery is absolutely not a soft skill. It is your fundamental, non-negotiable core operating system. Without it, the sheer, staggering volume of information you process every single day doesn't become actionable intelligence. It just becomes mental clutter. Your core OS is what actively prevents that system crash. So what's this operating system actually made of? Well, it's a conscious integration of three distinct elements. First up is neurobiology. Really understanding how your brain and nervous system physically function under intense stress. Second is execution psychology. Now, this isn't just about getting to inbox zero, it's the actual mechanics of bridging the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. It's turning complex intent into focused action. And third, we have spiritual intelligence, or what we can call dharma, your higher aligning purpose. If you don't deliberately integrate these three elements together, even the absolute highest performing executives are going to fall victim to chaos. You really need all three running in total harmony. Moving on to Section 2, the human performance chain, or the code behind the chaos. Now, what's really interesting here is that every visible career outcome you've ever achieved, or frankly failed to achieve, is actually just the execution of an invisible chain of internal code. It's like a giant puzzle, and it all starts upstream with Step 1, your thoughts and emotions. Those directly dictate Step 2, your decisions. From there, your decisions create Step 3, your actions. When you repeat those actions, they form Step 4, your habits. Those habits then solidify into Step 5, your character. And ultimately, your character determines Step 6, your destiny. When you intentionally design this chain right from that very first thought, you completely transform your performance from reactive day-to-day chaos into deliberate, predictable architecture. And the biological mechanism that literally powers that human performance chain we just looked at, that's neuroplasticity. This is your brain's incredible ability to physically rewire its own neural pathways just through repetition. Literally every time you repeat a thought, an emotion, or an action, you are physically changing the structure of your brain. It's wild. Modern neuroscience absolutely proves that your hardware is not fixed. You are the programmer, and repetition is your code. That brings us to Section 3, defending your attention and protecting the bandwidth. Now that we know we've got this amazingly rewirable hardware, we need a reliable way to direct it, right? Enter the ancient Sanskrit term sankalpa. You can think of this as a deeply resolved intention. It's a clear, one-pointed purpose that perfectly aligns your brain's neural rewiring with your highest dharma, or purpose. You see, neuroplasticity is going to happen no matter what. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on whatever it's exposed to. But sankalpa, it provides the exact laser-focused intention you need to ensure your brain is rewiring in the direction of your ultimate goals, rather than just randomly reacting to your environment. But to actually maintain that sankalpa, you've got to internalize one absolutely fundamental truth. Attention is your most valuable currency. Let me really emphasize this for you. In this ecosystem, attention isn't just time. Time is passive, right? But attention is active. Attention is the raw, hard currency that buys your decision bandwidth. Literally, where your attention goes, your neural rewiring follows. If you're bankrupt on attention, well, you're completely bankrupt on execution. Unfortunately, as you probably know all too well, there is a constant assault on your currency by what our source material calls the attention thieves. We're talking about those notifications constantly popping up, the endless digital distractions, and oh boy, those relentless, pseudo-urgent requests from colleagues. You know exactly the ones. That quick question Slack message that completely derails your deep work for an entire hour. As an executive, every single time you allow these thieves into your system, they aggressively drain your bandwidth. You literally have to defend your attention with the exact same ruthlessness that you would use to defend your company's bank account. Okay, let's head into Section 4, the Psychotech ecosystem. This is where we installed the 3 pillars. So it's time to take all of these massive concepts, neuroplasticity, sankalpa, and attention, and actually engineer them into a tangible, repeatable, daily ecosystem. I want you to think of yourself as a piece of high-end technology. You need 3 integrated pieces to function at your absolute peak. You need software, which is your internal emotional regulation. You need hardware, which is your biological engineering and your physical body. And you need an interface, which is the technical support and the tools you use to interact with the world. And this brilliantly illustrates how all 3 are equally vital, fully integrated pieces of the self-mastery pie. Let's break down how to actually engineer this ecosystem in your daily life. For your software, you install practices like meditation, self-observation, and cognitive reframing. This stabilizes those emotional hijacks, like training yourself to instantly view a lost client not as a massive crisis, but as a strategic pivot point. For your hardware, you're relentlessly focusing on sleep, movement, nutrition, and identity-based habits. This biologically protects your energy, so your decision bandwidth stays wide open. And finally, for your interface, you utilize AI-driven dashboards and focus trackers. This significantly reduces the digital noise of the modern world and really amplifies your high-leverage behaviors. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that implementing this ecosystem shifts you from relying on goals to relying on systems. Look, goals focus purely on what you want. The problem is pursuing goals relies on motivation, and motivation is just a fleeting neurochemical state. It's going to inevitably abandon you when you're tired or super stressed. Systems, on the other hand, focus on who you become. When you install the software, hardware, and interface we just talked about, you're creating identity-based habits. These systems make your high performance completely automatic, whether you feel motivated that day or not. It's a real game changer. This leads us to our final section, Section 5, Becoming a Psychotech Leader, the Ultimate Upgrade. So this is what you actually look like when you successfully install this overarching system into your life. Because their internal software is fully regulated, the Psychotech leader stays exceptionally calm under chaos. They maintain inner silence even under immense pressure. Because their interface is perfectly tuned, they use AI as a focus amplifier, not a distraction engine. They filter all their heavy decisions through their clear sankalpa and dharma. They don't just rely on sheer willpower. Instead, they automate their high performance through myelinated habits. Those are the neural pathways that have been physically insulated through repetition to fire effortlessly and instantly. And above all, they prioritize internal transformation over simply gathering more information. When you adopt these specific traits, you're turning your ultimate destiny from a random lottery into a deliberate design. Our source material sums this entire architectural shift up beautifully in one really powerful quote. The only non-commoditizable competitive advantage is disciplined consciousness, a mind architecturally aligned with purpose, hardened by systems, and amplified by technology. Think about it. In a business environment that is literally saturated with noise, stress, and burnout, anyone can copy your strategy, right? They can reverse engineer your product, but there is absolutely no way they can copy a deeply disciplined, architecturally aligned mind. That is your ultimate, undeniable competitive advantage. I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to answer honestly for yourself. Is your mind architecturally aligned, or are you just reacting to the noise? If you're still just reacting, it's time to stop treating self-mastery as a soft skill. It's time to upgrade your operating system, ruthlessly defend your attention, and install your own Psychotech ecosystem. The blueprints are right in front of you. Now, it's time to build.